وتنضم إلينا مديرة Human Rights Watch في أستراليا دانييلا غافشون. Welcome Daniela and thank you for joining us tonight. A Hamas spokesperson claimed that the Israelis who were killed were not civilians but settlers and therefore they are legitimate targets. What does the Geneva Convention say about that?
The Geneva Convention is unbelievably clear about this. The fundamental feature of international humanitarian law, which is the laws of war, is that there is the principle of distinction between civilians and combatants. A civilian can never be targeted. A civilian is never going to be an acceptable target in any use of armed force. So when we look at who a combatant is, and then the Geneva Convention goes into more detail, and you also get helpful commentary from the Red Cross, the International Committee of the Red Cross. A combatant is a regular member of the armed forces or a full-time member of a fighting group. So if you are not a full-time fighter, you are not considered to be a combatant. So even in the case of Israel, where you have reservists are not considered to be combatants and legitimate targets only for such time as they are actually actively participating as members of the armed forces. And same with civilians. So civilians will lose their right to be civilians if they're directly participating in hostilities. So that means it's very also clear what direct participation is. So unless there is a civilian directly participating in hostilities, they're unbelievably clear that they are protected by the laws of war and cannot be targeted.
So in that regard, the civilians need to be in an armed force like uniform to be considered as taking part in hostilities?
For an individual's act to constitute directly participating in hostility, they have to be imminently able to cause harm. It has to be that they're imminently going to be causing harm to a group. That's not what we saw here. It is absolutely not a situation of civilians directly participating in hostilities. That is not at all. I mean, you saw hideous footage from a music rave and it's civilians partying, it's civilians sitting in their homes early in the dawn in the morning, going about their daily lives. This is not a situation where it's blurry. It is abundantly clear that these were civilians.
In the current conflict, what amounts a war crime according to the international law?
Yeah, this is a really good question. So what we see with the laws of war is it really clearly codifies what